Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. Today I am trying to build something quickly. I've been very preoccupied preparing for my wife's birthday coming up and making other plans for vacations and things, so I've kind of been strapped for time. And I have printed a bunch of things on my 3D printer, like when I first bought it, and have never made videos on these things, so I have several that I need to work on. So I thought that maybe I could work on a Doctor Doom mask. And as I was looking at reference images to try and figure out how I wanted to finish it and the details and stuff, I don't really like the shiny. I know that that's Doctor Doom's kind of thing, is a nice shiny mask, and I like rust, so I'm making it for myself, so I'm gonna rust this thing up. So today I am making a Doctor Doom mask with a Much Prop spin, rusting and weathering the crap out of it, and trying to prevent as much sanding as possible on this 3D print. So let's get to building. For this video, I thought it would be fun to add a made-up story to go along with why my guy is all rusted up. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the process and my story at the same time, so hopefully you enjoy. In this timeline, Doctor Doom won. The Fantastic Four fell. The world surrendered, and Victor Von Doom returned to Latveria not as a king, but as something closer to a god. He believed humanity needed order, and only he was strong enough to impose it. But power like that changes people. So while I smooth over this 3D print layer lines, I imagine this is the beginning of Doom's final transformation. I quickly scuffed up the surface so the UV resin would adhere properly, then brushed it over the mask to fill every imperfection before curing it under a UV light. The resin hardens into a smooth shell, sealing everything beneath it forever. And this feels symbolic for Doom, because evil rarely looks monstrous at first. It hides beneath polished armor and noble intentions. Doom truly believed he was saving the world, but once someone convinces themselves that control matters more than compassion, corruption has already begun. This mask wasn't becoming armor anymore, it was becoming a coffin. Next, I coated the entire mask in hammered Rust-Oleum spray paint to make it look like forged iron. Now I'm dry brushing on some silver rub and buff around the edges and the whole mask to give that metal shine. This is where the mask almost looks alive. The silver catches the high points like moonlight reflecting off polished steel. For a moment, you can picture the armor in its prime, towering above the armies, untouchable, unstoppable. The kind of presence that makes the entire nation kneel without a word being spoken. Reed Richards spent years trying to stop him in this timeline, but Doom became too powerful, blending science with ancient magic until nobody could challenge him anymore. And once there was no one left to oppose him, Doom began fearing the one thing he could never control: time. So he sealed himself inside his upgraded armor, designed to preserve his body forever. The system sustained him, protected him, bound to his flesh permanently. But there's a lesson buried in that. When someone dedicates their life to power and domination, eventually they stop protecting humanity and start sacrificing it. Then eventually they sacrifice themselves too. Because evil corrupts everything it touches. Kingdoms, people, even the person who believes they control it. Now I'm brushing on the orange-red primer from Modern Masters Rust Kit. This is where the decay begins. The warm reddish tone settles into the surface like dried blood beneath old iron. Suddenly the mask no longer feels powerful, it feels haunted. And in my mind, centuries have now passed. Latveria has become a graveyard kingdom swallowed by ash and storm. Castle Doom still stands, but barely. Empty halls, broken statues, torn banners hanging motionless in the dark. And somewhere deep beneath the castle, Doom sits on his throne. Not alive, not dead, just trapped. The armor that once symbolized his strength slowly fused to him over hundreds of years. Rust crept across the metal, while bitterness consumed whatever remained of Victor Von Doom inside. Because hatred doesn't stay contained, it spreads, it poisons, it rots everything it touches. Next comes the iron paint layer, which contains actual iron particles that will physically oxidize during the next step. And honestly, that's perfect for this build, because this isn't fake weathering anymore. This mask is literally beginning to corrode. That mirrors Doom's story perfectly. At first, he ruled with absolute confidence, but isolation twisted him. Every betrayal made him colder, every act of cruelty made compassion feel weaker and weaker, and eventually there was nothing left except paranoia and control. The armor became an extension of that corruption, heavy and suffocating and permanent. And that's the danger of evil. People think corruption happens all at once, but it doesn't. It happens gradually, one compromise at a time, one justification at a time, until one day, the person staring back at you isn't even human anymore. Now comes the activator spray. The moment it touches the iron paint, the oxidation begins spreading across the surface in real time. Orange rust blooms outward like a disease crawling through every crack and crevice. It honestly looks beautiful, but also a bit unsettling, because you're literally watching decaying happen in front of you. And in this moment, that rust represents centuries of corruption finally consuming Doom completely. The greatest villain on Earth wasn't destroyed in battle. He wasn't defeated by heroes. He outlasted all of them, but time slowly reduced him to ruin. When explorers finally uncovered the buried throne room beneath Castle Doom, they found only silence. A rusted figure slumped motionless upon the throne. The armor was fused to the stone beneath it. The metal had hollowed from the inside out. The Fantastic Four could not stop Dr. Doom, but eventually, evil consumed him. That's the thing about darkness. It promises strength, control, and immortality, but it devours everything in the end, including the one who embraces it. To finish the weathering, I pushed dark acrylic paint deep into the recesses and cracks, then came back with a silver rub and buff on the raised edges. The final contrast tells the entire story of the mask. The silver highlight shows traces of what Doom once was, brilliant, powerful, and almost noble in his vision. But the darkness in the recesses shows what he became. The cracks feel deeper now, the rust feels older, every shadow looks like centuries of regret trapped inside the metal. And that's what makes weathering so powerful in prop builds. Damage becomes storytelling. The imperfections are what makes the object believable, because perfection feels lifeless, scars feel real. Now I'm gluing foam inserts into the cheek contours to improve the fit and cover more of my face. Small changes, but it transforms how the mask feels when you wear it. It becomes tighter, more enclosed, more claustrophobic, like something that doesn't want to come off. And in this timeline, eventually it couldn't. Doom wore the armor for so long that it became inseparable from him. Flesh and metal fused together until nobody could tell where the man ended and the machine began. That's what obsession does when left unchecked. It consumes your identity itself. For the final steps, I glued in the elastic strapping and reinforced them with some foam to lock everything securely into place. And with that, the mask is pretty much complete. What started as a clean 3D print now feels like an artifact excavated from the ruins of a fallen empire, a relic from a timeline where Doctor Doom achieved his ultimate victory, only to spend eternity imprisoned inside the very armor that made him powerful. And honestly, that's why I love builds like this, because props aren't just objects, they're stories frozen in a physical form. This mask tells the story of a man who conquered the world, but couldn't conquer his own corruption. And in the end, after all the wars, all the power, all the fear he created, time sat quietly beside him while his armor rusted away, until even Doom became dust beneath the throne of Latveria. And we are finished. Here is the end result. Overall, I think it turned out pretty awesome. I love using this chemical treatment on stuff to give it rust because it's real and it kind of has those variations that would be very hard for me to pull off if I was just trying to paint the effect on myself. I don't know what it is about rust that just speaks to me, speaks to my trash goblinness, but it's definitely something that I keep around as inspiration. And even though it may not fit the storyline of the actual character, I can make up my own. Maybe you will try and make one of these yourselves and impress your friends with your ability to just do what you want. It's just cosplay. Have fun. Yeah. Maybe you'll get some. Yay! And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these. Tell them, much props. I did find out that it needs padding on the inside because it cut my face, which seemed appropriate for this mask. Peace out. If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and you want to see more builds like this one, please consider joining these awesome people listed here with me over on my Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community together.